We just watched one era end and another begin on the sidelines. There's a new voice leading this team, new energy in the building, and on paper it feels like a fresh start. But at the exact same time, there are some real decisions coming that could hit closer to home than a lot of fans are ready for. One situation involves a veteran who's been part of our identity for years, and now suddenly his future in Buffalo doesn't feel so secure. And the other? Let's just say a division rival may have accidentally handed us an opportunity that could completely shift the balance of power in the AFC East. These two stories might look separate on the surface, but together, they say a lot about where this team is headed. Before we dive into it, if you're a real Bills fan who lives and breathes this team like I do, hit that like button and make sure you're subscribed. Bills Nation Update is brand new. We're pushing toward our first 2,000 subscribers, and this is the spot for honest, passionate Bills talk. No filters. According to Bills insider Catherine Fitzgerald from the Buffalo News, there's a surprise salary cap cut candidate floating around early this offseason, and the name she pointed to is Taran Johnson. Yeah, that Taran Johnson. The same guy who's been here his entire career. The same guy who made All-Pro second team back in 2023. The same guy who, for years, felt like one of the glue pieces in this defense. But here's the reality of where we are. This offseason already started with massive change. Sean McDermott is out. Joe Brady is now the head coach after getting promoted from offensive coordinator. Brady has moved fast, building what looks like an all-star coaching staff on paper. And on the defensive side, we've got Jim Leonhard stepping in as defensive coordinator, ready to put his own stamp on this scheme. And when new coordinators come in, they evaluate everything, every role, every contract, every fit. That's where things get uncomfortable. Johnson is set to make $11.4 million in 2026. And for a player whose performance has dipped over the last 2 seasons, that's a tough number to justify. Let's be honest, his play hasn't been the same since that All-Pro year. Over the past 2 seasons, there were stretches where he didn't look like the lockdown presence we were used to. At times last season, he even lost his spot in the starting lineup. That's not something we were saying about him a few years ago. And now, with Leonhard potentially reshaping the defensive scheme, especially in the secondary, Johnson could end up being the odd man out. He struggled to remain effective on the boundary in 2025. And if the new system doesn't highlight what he does best, that contract becomes even harder to defend. This isn't just about performance, it's about timing. We're heading toward free agency. The new league year starts in March. Bonuses trigger. Cap hits lock in. Teams around the league are already identifying who stays and who goes to create space. If the Bills were to release Johnson, it likely wouldn't happen in a panic move. It would probably be a post-June 1st designation. Why? Because that spreads out the dead cap hit over 2 seasons and saves about $8.67 million in cap space. If they cut him before June 1st, they'd only save around $1.9 million. That's a massive difference. $8.67 million is real flexibility. That's the kind of money that helps you retool a roster, sign key free agents, or prepare for the 2026 draft. Now here's the part that makes this complicated. Johnson has been a Bill his entire career. He's part of the culture. He's been through playoff runs, heartbreak losses, defensive battles in the snow, all of it. You don't just move on from that lightly. The team will likely try to restructure his deal first. That's the logical step. See if you can lower the cap hit, keep the veteran presence, give Leonhard a chance to see if he can revive that all-pro level production. But if they can't agree on new terms, then this becomes one of those cold business side decisions that every contender eventually has to make. And that's what this tells me more than anything. This front office isn't going to be sentimental. Not with this much change happening. Not with a new head coach trying to put his stamp on the team. This is about resetting the financial structure. It's about maximizing cap flexibility. It's about making sure every dollar matches production. And as much as I hate saying it, over the last 2 seasons, $11.4 million hasn't matched what we've seen on the field. So yeah, this is something to watch very closely over the next few weeks. Because if this move happens, it's not just about one player. It's a statement about where this team is heading under Joe Brady. But here's where things get really interesting. Because while we're potentially talking about clearing cap space on one side of the ball, a division rival may have just created an opportunity on the other side that could completely change the energy in this rivalry. And if this second move actually happens, oh, it would be poetic. Let's talk about it. The Miami Dolphins just released Bradley Chubb. And honestly, the timing was the only surprising part. It happened in the middle of February, which caught some people off guard. But the move itself? Not shocking. Miami is dealing with salary cap problems, and they can't officially sort everything out until free agency opens in March. They can't make trades until March 11th, so they had to start trimming somewhere. Chubb became part of a larger wave of roster moves on Monday that also included Tyreek Hill, Nick Westbrook-Akine, and James Daniels. That's not small. That's not random. That's a team reshuffling its financial deck. Now here's where it gets interesting for us. Chubb is 29 years old. He sat out all of 2024, but came back last season and played in all 17 games. And he still put up 8.5 sacks. 8.5 on a team that had instability, roster turnover, and cap drama hanging over it. You're telling me that guy doesn't have gas left in the tank? Come on. And if there's one thing the Buffalo Bills need right now, it's help at edge rusher. Last season, we signed Joey Bosa to a 1-year deal. It's still unclear whether the team plans to bring him back. We also have to make decisions on A.J. Epinesa, who is an impending free agent. That's potentially 2 edge rushers not locked in. So you're telling me a proven pass rusher just hit the market from within our own division, and we're not at least going to explore that? If it's not us, there are other teams that make sense. The Chicago Bears and the Los Angeles Rams have both been mentioned as possible landing spots. And remember, it was previously reported that 3 unnamed teams tried to trade for Chubb before last season's trade deadline. Miami, with Champ Kelly helping oversee roster decisions, chose to keep him. Less than 5 months later, they release him for nothing. Nothing. And here's the part that makes this feel almost too perfect. The Dolphins already entered the 2026 offseason needing edge help. They traded Jalen Phillips to the Philadelphia Eagles last season. Now with Chubb gone, they're basically left with Chop Robinson as their only potential starting caliber edge defender. Robinson has shown flashes over 2 seasons. He's been decent, but he's also been inconsistent. So if Buffalo signs Chubb, we're not just adding a pass rusher. We're potentially strengthening our defensive front while weakening a division rival that refused to trade him when they had the chance. That's chess, not checkers. Now let's be real for a second. Chubb isn't a long-term 5-year solution. He's 29. You'd likely be looking at a short-term deal. Maybe something structured carefully around incentives. Maybe something that works especially well if we do free up that $8.67 million in cap space from the Johnson situation. See how these 2 stories start connecting? One potential move clears flexibility. The other potentially uses that flexibility to attack a clear roster need. And imagine that defensive front under Jim Leonhard's new scheme with a healthy, motivated Bradley Chubb coming off the edge. Add that to what we already have up front, And suddenly that defense feels aggressive again. It feels hungry. It feels like it's trying to take back control of this division. And I'll say this as a fan. If the Bills signed Chubb after Miami refused to trade him last year, that would feel like one of those rivalry moments we talk about for years. But none of this is official yet. It's about positioning. It's about options. It's about whether this front office wants to be bold right out of the gate under Joe Brady. So now the question becomes, are we watching the beginning of a calculated roster reset? Or are we watching the Bills gearing up to strike? Let's bring it all together. When you step back and look at both of these stories together, it really feels like we're at a turning point. On one side, you've got a respected veteran like Taran Johnson, a guy who's been part of the heartbeat of this defense, potentially on the way out because the numbers and the performance just don't align anymore. $11.4 million is a serious cap hit. And if the production over the last 2 seasons hasn't matched that, this front office, under a new head coach, isn't going to ignore it. That's not emotional. That's strategic. On the other side, you've got Bradley Chubb, a proven pass rusher, still productive, suddenly available, and sitting right there in our own division. A player who fills a real need at edge rusher. A player who just had 8.5 sacks after returning from sitting out an entire season. A player who played all 17 games last year and showed he's still got something left. So, what do these two situations reveal? They show a team that might be ready to stop living off reputation and start recalibrating around value, fit, and urgency. If Johnson stays and restructures, great. That means the staff believes he still fits what Jim Leonhard wants to build. If he goes, it signals that this defense is being reshaped with zero sentiment attached. And if Buffalo makes a real push for Chubb, that tells you this isn't a passive offseason. That tells you Joe Brady and the front office want to be aggressive. That tells you they see the AFC East as wide open, especially with Miami juggling cap issues and roster holes after moving on from names like Jalen Phillips and now Chubb. This feels decisive, not reckless, not desperate, decisive. As a fan, I'm not panicking. I'm not celebrating either. I'm watching closely because this is how contenders evolve, through tough choices and bold opportunities. The next few weeks are going to say a lot about what version of the Buffalo Bills we're about to see. Now I want to hear from you. If it came down to it, would you move on from Taran Johnson to create that cap space? And would you bring in Bradley Chubb if the price makes sense, even knowing he's coming from a division rival? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Let's talk about it. And if you're new here, this is Bills Nation Update. We're just getting started. The channel is brand new. We're pushing toward our first 2,000 subscribers. And if you're a Bills fan who appreciates honest takes, real emotion, and conversations that feel like you're talking football with your crew, hit subscribe and be part of building this with us. Like the video if you felt this one. We've got a massive offseason ahead, and I'll be right here with you through every move. Go Bills!